In this video, I want to continue on looking at the security provided by Exchange Online. So as a summary, I have mentioned the fact that there are multiple ways to protect information in Microsoft 365. And the idea here is we generally start with email because that is the most likely vector. So again, the summary diagram here shows you that the first place to start generally is to look at DNS. And then the next place to look at is the protection around the generic Exchange Online, and then move from that into things like Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Now, when we have a look at Exchange Online, you'll notice that when a mail is inbound, we have to obviously set up the domain records, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC2 best practices to assist the system working out which emails are good and which emails are bad. Then when the email comes in, it goes through a number of protection technologies provided by Microsoft. There's no configuration that can be done inside the user tenant around this. This is Microsoft's inherent protection for emails. Then we go into policies and protection that the user can configure. Now, I have spoken about the spam policy and the connection policy in a previous video, which I'll make sure that I do link to this one. Today, we're going to have a look at the malware policy. So how we set up the malware policy, where it's located, and so forth. And then you'll notice that there are a number of additional policies that will the email will go through to ensure that it is safe, but we won't be covering those in this video. Look for those in upcoming episodes. Now, the place where we find the malware policy is we have to go to security.microsoft.com. We have to log in as an administrator. Then we want to scroll down to email and collaboration, and then under that you'll see that there is policies and rules. If we select that, you'll see we get a list of policies and rules on the right hand side, and what we want to do is go in and have a look at the threat policies. Now, the threat policies that you see here will vary depending on which license you have in your environment, but we'll always get the ability to select the anti-malware option. So let us select that. You'll see here that we get a default or generic malware policy by default. So we'll select that just to have a look. You'll see this is already set up for us. There's not a lot of configurations that can be done here. So the first one that we can change is to put in a description, and you'll see that we can also go down here and edit any additional protections. Now, running through this, the main thing around malware is firstly to look at the different file types. So you'll notice there are a number of these already enabled by default, but if we select the option here, we can go in and enable more. So we could go through a list here, and we could remove these by selecting the X if we wanted to. Now, if we want to add more, we can select the area here, and you'll see that we get a range of probably 90 or so additional items that we can select here. Now, the downside here at this point in time is that we can only select these one at a time. We can't, for example, hold down the control or the shift key and select a range. So we would have to click in here and go through all of these individually if we wanted to add those. So if you do want to add them in bulk, perhaps PowerShell is a better option for you. Now, you'll see here that we also want to know the action. So you can set the action when these attachments are found. You can reject the message or quarantine it. And we've also got the ability to enable the 0-hour purge. So if something is noted after the fact, then Microsoft can reach into the mailbox and remove that automatically. You'll see we can also tie this to a quarantine policy. So if you have your quarantine policies set up, you'll see that you can also have a custom quarantine policy here that you can target it at if you wish. And then down the bottom here, we've got our notifications for admins and so on. And finally, we have the ability to customize the notification text so it doesn't look generic. Now, the benefit of doing that is that spammers and attackers will typically use standard verbiage to try and trick users to click on an email or click on a link. So again, maybe it's a good idea to change that to a non-standard setting to avoid that. Now, that is the default policy. You'll notice here that we can go in and we can create a new policy. When we do that, it's going to step us through a wizard here. So what I'm going to call this is, I'll call this best practice malware policy. All right, so let's get that. And then we are taken through the the wizard settings here, we get to determine and nominate which users this policy will apply to. So we can apply any custom policies we can target at specific users that we want. And again, the idea is we can obviously just type that information in there and add those. We can target specific groups, and we can target specific domains if we want to as well. All right, so we can put in our specific domains if we want. Okay, so we go next here. Now again, we see these familiar settings that we saw in the default policy. All right, so we would go in and select the options that we want there. We would then get a summary. All right, so you'll see a summary listed here, and we would select submit. That would then go in and create the policy for us. Very simple, and you'll see here that it appears. The difference with a custom policy is it's also given a priority, so you can have multiple policies, and the policy with the lowest priority is executed last. So the default policy will always be executed because that is set at the lowest. But any custom policies you create can be set in a priority order if you wish. Best practice is to keep the amount of policies to a minimum to ensure that emails do flow through as quickly as possible. Now, if we want to delete this, we can simply select that, and under more actions here, you'll see that we can disable and we can delete. So good idea is to set the policy, use it. If you get issues, is maybe disable it first, see if you can rectify any problems, and then if you do need to delete it, you can. You'll see that we can also export a policy here if we want to. We can refresh the information. So again, pretty simple options here when it comes to malware policies. The idea is that these combine with other policies to prevent bad things ending up in mailboxes. So again, the way that we got to here was we went into security.microsoft.com. We went under the email and collaboration options, selected policies and rules, then selected threat policies, and we scrolled down and selected anti-malware, and we went in and edited the policies as needed. Again, once you've created a policy or a custom policy, you can always go back in and edit this at any point. So go in here and edit, and you can add additional files and so on in here by selecting the files, and clicking on that allows you to add the individual file extensions one at a time. That is a bit cumbersome, and perhaps PowerShell will allow you to do it in a group or a bulk method. So that is sort of the second range of policies we have available to us to protect our emails in Exchange Online. Both anti-spam and anti-malware policies are available across all Microsoft 365 licenses. So they should be the two primary ones you go in and configure to ensure that emails delivered are safe before they get to any user. Thank you very much for watching the video.